Hello viewers, welcome to another lesson for the senior secondary school category. Our today's lesson is going to be solving quadratic equations by completing the square method. Before going further, I would like to introduce myself. I am Mas Jame, and the learning objective of the lesson for today's session is by the end of this session, students should be able to solve quadratic equations by completing the square method. Good. I believe students are set for the session. Get your calculators by your sides, and then we can start the work in earnest. Now, here is a message that I want to put to the learners. Before we can solve quadratic equations, there is something that you need to do first. And this is, we first have to find the missing value of C, where C is said to be the constant of the expression. Very, very important, please. To do this, it is done by, you simply take the value of B, and B in the expression is always the coefficient of X in the expression. The moment you take the value of B, what do you do to the value? Your next step is to divide the value by 2. And dividing the value by 2, then you are going to square the results to get the answer that will be fit for the space provided. We have examples on the blackboard. We are going to look at these examples together. Please, we are going to take it step by step, and I'm expecting you to follow the steps gradually as I do the presentation. The question reads, find a value that completes the square. The first question is x squared plus 8x plus dash. Now, the dash here is an empty space that you and I are supposed to complete. How do we complete this? Remember, the steps are already given on the blackboard. You are warned, before we can solve this or solve quadratic equations, we first find the missing value. And to get that value, I said simply take the value of what? B. Who can tell what's the value of B in this expression? By looking at the expression, the value of B equals to 8. I repeat, with the expression we have on the blackboard, the value of B is 8. Now, what did we say after identifying the value of B? We stated clearly that you take the value of B, divide it in what? 2. So we are going to take the value of B, which is equal to 8. Now that we take the value of B as 8, our next step should be dividing it by 2. If you divide 8 by 2, what's going to be your answer? The answer is 4. Good. I think that step is well explained. I'll repeat. What we did is we decided to take the value of B. From there, we divided the result by 2. And the next step, remember, that we will go to is, we are told that any time from the rules given on the board, anytime you take the value of B, divide it by 2, and the last step to the answer is you have to square everything. Taking the square will enable you to get the answer to the space provided. So the answer to 4 raised to the power 2, which is the same as 4 times 4, is equals to 16. Please, students, I think you need to be very careful when writing answers regarding squares. Most of the students give wrong answers, especially when handling numbers that are squared. Like in the case of 4 raised to the power 2 in exams, most of you, by mistake, will give the answer as 8, which is not correct. Please, we need to take care of that. question number 2. In question number 2, the expression given is x squared plus 20x plus a box. What is in that box? Do you know? Who can tell? All right. Now, since I cannot tell, you cannot tell, remember we are given all the rules to investigate and then give the right answer to that empty box. Remember the steps. Our first step is you have to take the value of b. Who can give the value of b from the second expression that we have? Remember, we are solving the second one. The value of b in the second expression is, we have b equals to 20. I repeat, the value of b in the expression that we have is equals to 20. Have we known the value of b? What next are we going to do with the value of b? The value of b is supposed to be divided by what? 2, as stated in the rule. Now, to divide this value by 2 will help us move to the next stage. Now, can we divide this number by 2? So we will divide 20 by 2. That is the second step. We will move step by step gradually to the final answer. Now, since we have 20 divided by 2, who can give us the answer to that? 20 divided 2, the answer is 10. But remember the next step, after dividing it by 2, they say then square the result. So it means this is supposed to be squared. And if the result is squared, the answer is the same as multiplying 10 times 10. And that will give us 100. So it means the answer that's supposed to be in this box is supposed to be 100. Okay. The expression is x squared minus 16x plus a box. The box is an empty space provided, and it represents c. We are finding the constant of the expression. But remember, I said this not by magic. I gave you all the rules that you need to what? Follow to get the answer. Can we follow the same rules again? Here we go. My question to the class is, who can help us identify the value of b? Good. The value of b is given as negative 16. What a brilliant answer. Now that we know the value of b, what should be our second step to help us get the answer? Our second step is you should divide the value of b by 2. Let's divide it by 2 together, please. We have negative 16 divided by 2. Who can give us the answer to this question? Negative 16 divided by 2 will be how many? Yes? The answer is negative 8. Now that we got the answer, should we stop here? No. Remember, we have one more step to follow to make the procedures complete. The last rule says that you square the result. And what is the result here? When we divided negative 16 by 2, what was the result? We say the result is negative 8. Now, this negative 8 that we have here is exactly what we are going to square in bracket. Now, since this is what we have, kindly press this in your calculators and then give the final answer. Put bracket open, -8 bracket close, all squared, and tell me the answer to that. The answer becomes 64. Wonderful. Now, there is something I do detect in the class. Most of the students in the class here, when they are punching numbers like this, at times they misuse the calculator, and that can always give them a wrong answer. In the case of a student who will punch the result of -8 like this, if you should press this in the calculator, you will get an answer, obviously. But the answer you are going to get is going to be what? -64. And this answer does not suit the example that we are trying to solve. The answer obviously should be positive and not what? Negative. So you can realize that it's the same value, but what? With different signs. So this is why I was emphasizing the importance of the negative sign. If you neglect the negative sign, please, you are doing something else, and that can always give you a wrong answer. Now we go into the exercises, and our first exercise is on the board. But before we start the exercise, I want to remind you again that we are still doing the same thing. And to make the work easy, we need to strictly follow the rules that are given to you. Keep them by your side. They are your weapons to dissolve any question that come your way. Our first question is, find b divided by 2 in bracket all squared if b equals to 14. What do you notice in this question? Here we are given the value of b as 14. And that was the first step I gave in the previous examples. Who can tell? What did I say about after knowing the value of b? Do we stop there? If no, what next? Who can tell? Good. He said we have to divide 14 by 2. And the result is squared. And I think that's a brilliant answer. So dividing 14 by 2 will give us how much? 14 divided 2 is 7. We maintain the square because that's the rule. 7 squared is the same as 7 times 7. And what is 7 times 7? We are multiplying, remember. The answer is 49. Question number 2. The question reads, find b divided 2 all in bracket raised to the power 2 if, again, another condition is given, b equals to -12. The value of b is known as b equals to -12. Be mindful of the negative sign, please. Very, very serious. It can always make wrong answers if you don't handle it properly. Now that we know the value of b as 12, like I mentioned in the previous slides, what do you do after knowing the value of b? We simply take the value of b and divide it by 2, then square the results. Who can give us the answer to -12 divided by 2? What should be the answer? The answer is -6 all square. Again, Remember that you are squaring negative 6, which could be the same as negative 6 times negative 6. In the upper grade, remember, you are told by your teachers that multiplying a negative number by another negative number will always give us what? A positive result. So that's the essence of taking note of the negative sign. So negative 6 times negative 6 will give us 36. And that could be the right answer to the question. Question number 3. Are we set? Complete the square to form a perfect square trinomial. Wow. I repeat the question again. Complete the square to form a perfect square trinomial. That's the question. Now, look at the expression right on the board. What can you see? There's a question mark. And anytime you see a question mark, remember they are asking you what? What's supposed to be there? Do you know? I don't know. Perhaps you may know. Who can tell? All right. Now let's take it together. Remember, we have to take the steps, as I told you earlier. The first rule is we have to take the value of b. Who can give us the value of b in this case? I don't know, because we have done a lot of samples where we are able to find the value of b. I'm expecting you to give me the answer this time around. Who can give us the value of b, class? The answer is 18. Brilliant answer. If b equals 18, what number can we put in place of the question mark that would make the expression a perfect square trinomial? We must follow those steps that I give in getting the answer that is fit for that blank space. Now that the value of b is known, what should be our next step? He said we have to divide 18 by 2. And what next? We square the results. Wonderful. I like that. Again, I would like to know from the class, when you divide 18 by 2, what would be your answer? Did I hear 9? I don't know whether the student is afraid to mention the answer, but 9 is actually the correct answer. But don't forget to put the square, because anytime you get the result, to get your final answer, you must square it. 9 square is the same as 9 times 9. I don't think you will forget this anymore, because we have been doing it over and over. Very important. Don't take it light. And what is 9 times 9? The result is 81. So the correct answer for the space provided with the question mark is 81. Then 81 could make the expression a perfect square trinomial. Question number 4. It's moreover like the previous slide. I'm expecting students to do more work this time around. I'll give you some seconds to see how best you can figure it out by yourselves before we take it together. Question 4 reads, complete the square to form a perfect square trinomial. Your task here is to make sure that you give the value for that question mark, which I believe you can. I really trust my students. They can, obviously. So I'll give you some seconds to kindly do the sums and then give me the answer as quickly as possible. Okay, good work. I believe some will get it right, but others I know might be somewhere, anyway I don't want to mention. But also we have those that are always on the fence. Now, to make things clear, can we look at it together, please? Remember the expression is x squared minus 6x plus question mark, meaning what's supposed to be there? Do I know? I don't. Maybe you know. Well, let's look at it together. Who can give us the value of b in this expression? B equals negative 6. Very good answer. Now that we know the value of b, what should be our next step? Remember, we should divide the value of b by 2 and square the results. Who can give the answer to when you divide negative 6 by 2? The answer equals to what? Negative 3 in bracket all squared. Now, we have negative 3 all squared. Remember I said when a negative number is squared in bracket, remember I stressed the word in bracket, the result is always what? Positive. So this is going to be the same as multiplying negative 3 by negative 3. And what is negative 3 times negative 3? The result is 9. So the answer to the space provided here is 9. We now move into the next stage of the lesson. Remember, we were given 2 learning objectives. And the first learning objective was, by the end of the lesson, students should be able to what? Solve quadratic equations by completing the square method. So all we were doing was what? We were paving way to exactly where we are right now. So I believe before we start the lesson, you have to relax. Remember what you did in the previous slides, and that will surely help us to push from where we are now. So the next stage is solving quadratic equations by completing the square. How do you solve quadratic equations by completing the square? Here again we have steps. And the steps are very, very, very important. You cannot solve a question by completing the square if you violate any of the rules. So I'm putting much stress on the rules, please. Step 1 reads, write the equation in the form x squared plus bx equals c. Now here what does it mean? If you are given any quadratic equation, let's say I am given an equation of this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All the rule is saying here is you have to what? Transpose the constant to the right-hand side of the equation. Very, very important. Remember, this is our left-hand side, and after the equation, we have the right-hand side. So your first step should be transposing the constant to the right-hand side of the equation, and I believe you will take note of that rule. Step 2, find the value of b, divide by 2, and then square the result to help you move to the next level, which we did in the previous slides. In step 3, you are asked to complete the square by adding the result of dividing the value of b by 2, then square to both sides of the expression. Then step 4, factor the perfect square trinomial. Step 5, you take the square root of both sides to simplify and get the answer. Then step 6, write down or write the two equations using both the positive and the negative square root and solve each equation by parts. So these are the rules, very, very important rules that we need to stick to, or else any problem that you are solving, violating one can make the work look somehow. And please, I repeat, these rules need to be what? Strictly observed when solving. If not, you cannot get the right answer. And what is more interesting about the rules is that in our previous slide, or the previous slides that we have looked at, we have done about 2 to 3 things of the rules that we have right on the blackboard. Now let's look at an example to solve. From the rules that we have, remember I gave you the rules. Anything that I am going to do will be based on the rules. Remember, I'm not applying magic. I'm not a magician standing before you. So please note these rules very well, because all the steps that we are going to take are going to be out of this. Are we together? So here we go. So we have, let's look at an example to solve. And the question given on the board is x squared plus 4x, 14x is equals to 15. I repeat the question. We are asked to solve x squared plus 14x equals to 15. How are we going to solve this, class? I need your attention. Please, we are going to take this together. And remember, it's going to be what? Step by step, using the rules given. Can we start, please? Okay. We have the question as x squared plus 14x equals to 15. If you can remember the first rule, they said you should always transpose the constant to the right-hand side of the equation. Check the question whether it is in that form. Is the question in that form, class? Yes, it is. What next? We have to follow the second rule. And what was the second rule? The second rule states that we take half of b, divide the number, take the result, square it, then add it to both sides. Then we factor to simplify and get the results. So we do that together. B equals to 14. If b equals to 14, remember the rule say we are going to take half of the b value, square it, then add it to both sides. So this will give 14 divided by 2 is equals to 7. So we have to square this, because that's what the rule says. Take the value of b, divide by 2, and square the result. So if you square 7, you are going to have 7 times 7. And 7 times 7 is 49. So this is the number we are interested in. But here, we are completing the square. Remember, the rules are given. So here, the answer is 49 if you multiply 7 times 7. So we are going to solve and see how best we can use the steps to get the answer. X squared plus 14x equals to what? 15. So remember, we already know the b value. We decided to divide it by 2, then we square it. Now that I want to use it to add to both sides, can we do that together? X squared plus 14x. We are going to take this number here and add it to the left-hand side and at the same time to the right-hand side, as stated in the rules. You add 7 squared equals to 15 on the right-hand side, plus the same thing again, 7 squared. Now, if you look at this equation, can we pay attention to what is going to happen on the left-hand side? In your previous lesson, you remember that we learn how to factorize. And in factorization, remember you are told that you find the numbers that you multiply and can always give you the constant. If you add them, obviously will give us what? The b value. Now, to factorize this, if you look at the expression is quadratic, following all the terms from a, b, and c, you will realize that x is a factor. Again, looking at b and our constant, 7 is going to be another factor from the previous lesson. Now, if these are factors, what is going to be the signs? It is a positive expression. Since all the signs are positive, this is going to be what? X plus 7 in bracket, x plus 7. And I want to make this clear to you that if these brackets are expanded, the answer will go back to that. So for this reason, we write from the rules x plus 7 all squared. Why is this squared? Because how many brackets do we have here? We have 2. Remember, this is a binomial quadratic expression. So squaring it could mean as x plus 7 in bracket, x plus 7 in bracket. So this equals to 15 plus 49. How do we get that 49? Remember, we did simplify something here, and the result we get was 49. Our next rule is we have x plus 7 all squared equals to 64. So what next are we going to do here? The rule says you square both sides. And to take the square root of a number, remember, this answer could be either positive or negative. Put that there. It's very important. This is quadratic expression. We need to x plus 7 raised to the power 2 in bracket. The square will cancel the root right away. And that will give x plus 7 equals to, the square root of 64 is going to be plus or minus 8. Okay, I will continue the work in a fresh page. So since we have x plus 7 equals to plus or minus 8, are we going to stop there as our answer? No. We are going to make sure that we solve by each of the signs given there. The first one is going to be x plus 7 equals to 8 by using the plus sign. X equals, I'm collecting like terms here, and 8 and 7 are like terms. So you will have 8 minus 7. And what is 8 minus 7? The answer is x equals to 1. Remember, we have two signs, or we have to do the same thing for the negative sign. X plus 7 equals to negative 8. Again, we have to look at the like terms from the equation. The equation is x plus 7 equals to negative 8. What are the like terms here? You'll find out that the like terms are 7 and negative 8. So by collecting like terms, you will have x equals to negative 8 minus 7. And that's going to give us x equals to negative 15. So these are going to be the solutions for the equation x squared plus 14x equals to 15 by completing the square method. Another example to solve is here. We have x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. X squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. What is the value of b in this equation? The value is negative 2. We are going to divide the value of negative 2, which is b, by 2, then square it. If you divide negative 2 by 2, the answer is negative 1, all squared. And negative 1 in bracket squared is the same as negative 1 times negative 1, and the answer is positive 1. Now with this, our next target is to solve and get the answer to the quadratic expression x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. But remember, we are given rules. If you look at this equation, did we isolate the constant? I repeat, if you look at this equation, is the constant isolated? Obviously, the answer is no. So we have to observe that first before we do anything. So in solving, since this was the question, all we are going to do is we need to make sure that we isolate the constant as stipulated in the rules. And that will give us x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals to 0. That was the question. So the first step was x squared minus 2x equals to, if you transpose the 2 to the right hand side of the equation, it is going to be what? Positive 2. I repeat, if you transpose the 2 to the right hand side of the equation, it will change sign to what? Positive 2. Now that we have it in standard form, we can solve by completing the square. We are able to take the value of b as negative 2. We divided that by 2, and we are able to get negative 1. And the result is squared. Now we are going to take that component and add it to both sides of the equation so that we can solve down to get the answer. X squared minus 2x, I'm now adding it to the left hand side, is going to be plus. What are we adding to the left hand side first? We are adding negative 1. So that's going to give us minus 1 all squared equals to 2. Again, we are going to add the same thing to the right hand side, and that will give us plus in bracket negative 1 all squared. We have x squared minus 2x plus in bracket negative 1 all squared equals to 2 plus in bracket negative 1 all squared. Now, what do you realize? We are able to add negative 1 in bracket all squared to the left hand side and to the right hand side, which is a very good job. So from here, I always relate this to the previous lesson you learned, and that was what? Factorization. Now, in factorization, if this is further simplified like we did here, you will have x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals to 2 plus 1. Where is this 1 coming from? Remember, we simplified here, and that's exactly what we're supposed to add to both sides. So if we are going to pay attention to the left-hand side, remember the process of factorization can take place here. And you've already learned how to factorize this. If I am to factorize this together with the class, what do you think could be the factors to the expression x squared minus 2x plus 1? The factors are x minus 1, x minus 1 in bracket. And that will give us what? A binomial quadratic expression. This will give the answer as 2 plus 1 will give us 3. Now, with this binomial quadratic expression on the left hand side, we also have the same way of writing this as x minus 1 all squared equals to 3. Are they not the same? Why this square here? Because we have two brackets and they are set to multiply. And multiplying, remember, a number by itself could always yield what? A square. Let me add a page to complete this. We have x minus 1 all squared equals to 3. Don't forget the rules. Our next step is to take the square root of both sides. So this will cancel. And x minus 1 equals to the root of 3. Remember, plus or minus. Very, very important, since you are dealing with quadratic expression. So here we need two answers for the solution of the equation. X, I'm going to take the signs one after the other. We start with the positive sign. Minus 1 is equals to the root of 3. If we transpose the 1 to the right hand side, then we will have x equals to 1 plus the root of 3. If you want to go further, fine, you can proceed from that stage, but I think I will stop here for this. Or remember, it's a quadratic expression. We need two values that could satisfy the expression. We can also have x minus 1 equals to the negative of root 3. Now, since we have this, what again are you going to do from that point? Remember, we collect the like terms. So we have to transpose 1 to the right hand side of the expression or the equation. X equals to negative root 3. If you transpose this, is going to be plus 1. Now, if you want to rewrite it in another way, you can switch the order of the numbers, and that could give us x equals to 1 minus root of 3. So this could give the two values of x that can satisfy the expression. Now, we have another question. There's a more difficult example. Now, with this expression, we have 3x squared minus 10x equals negative 3. (3x squared minus 10x equals to negative 3). That's our next question. So we are going to solve this the same way, but I want to put it clear to you that if you look at this question that we have on the board, look at the value of a. It is what? 3. Compare it to the previous examples that we solved, where the value of a was 1. Should we solve the same way? The answer is no. What do you do if the answer is no? The only thing you need to do is you have to make sure that the quadratic expression or the value of a is reduced to what? 1. Please stick to that rule. Very, very important. I repeat, if you have the value of a greater than 1, you must reduce it to be 1. And how could you do that? You have to divide the whole expression by the a value. And what is our a value here? The a value is 3. So we must divide everything by 3. We cancel because 3 can cancel 3. X squared minus 10 over 3x equals negative 1. So this is going to be the expression now. With this, can you complete the square by using the rules given? Yes, you can. Again, you have to look at the expression given. Is the constant isolated? Yes, it is. Then I think we can proceed from here. Since the constant is isolated, we have to look for the value of b. Now, we know that the value of b equals to negative 10 all over 3. Knowing the value of b as negative 10 over 3, we are going to multiply this by half. Like I said, it could mean the same as dividing the result by 2. Negative 10 all over 3 in bracket times 1 over 2. Remember the rule say you must square this result. If you want, you can multiply the numerators, your denominators, then reduce the fraction to its lowest term, or you can reduce by cancelling. I want to cancel. 2 can divide itself once into 10 is 5 times. Are there numbers that we can cancel further? You multiply. If you multiply, negative 5 by 1 will give us negative 5. All over 3 times 1, that's 3, all square. So we are going to take this and then add to the left-hand side and again to the right-hand side, because that's what the rule states. This is the expression. So we are going to add x squared minus 10 over 3 x plus, in bracket, negative 5 all over 3 all squared equals to negative 1 plus, in bracket, negative 5 all over 3 all squared. So you can see that we are able to add it to both sides of the expression. So the equation now can be further simplified by factorization. We have done a lot of factorizations in our previous lessons. So here the factors are going to be x minus 5 over 3 all squared. If you factorize properly, this is what you are going to get, equals to negative 1 plus negative 5 divide 3 all in bracket raised to the power 2 will give us 25 over 9. So that will give x minus 5 over 3 in bracket all squared equals to negative 1 plus 25 over 9. Many students make the mistake of solving this because they find it difficult to operate, especially when it comes to fraction. Remember, in the upper basic, you learn how to find the LCM. So we take the LCM of 1 and 9 as 9. The concept here could be completed by cross multiplying right away, starting from the right to the left. Or you can use this method that most of you are okay with by saying 1 goes into 9. I think that will give you the same 9. So we are going to find the LCM from the fractions we have. And the LCM of 9 and 1 is 9. So we go. 1 goes into 9 is how many times? 9 times. 9 times negative 1 will give us negative 9. Plus 9 goes into itself is 1s. 1 times 25 will give us 25. So this will give x minus 5 over 3 all squared equals to negative 9 plus 25. If you switch the order, is the same as saying 25 minus 9. And that will give us 16 over 9. Remember, in the rules, we are told to take the square root of both sides in solving to get the values of x. So we are going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the positive and negative. The square will cancel the root, and you are left with x minus 5 over 3 equals to plus or minus. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 9 is 3. Are we to stop there as our answer? No. Remember, we need two values of x. So we are going to use these signs one after the other. X minus 5 over 3 equals to 4 over 3. In collecting like terms, x will be equals to 4 over 3 plus, because if you transpose the 5 over 3, it will change sign to positive, and that will give us 5 over 3. X equals to, in grade 7, you are told that when dealing with fractions with the same denominator, you take 1 and add the numerators. Our numerators are 4 and 5. So we add 4 plus 5, that will give us 9. Divide by, the denominators are common, we take 1. And what is 9 divide 3? The answer is 3. Or x minus 5 over 3 equals to negative 4 over 3. The same way, we have to transpose negative 5 over 3 to the right-hand side of the equation. And that will give x equals to negative 4 over 3 plus 5 over 3. If you look at the two fractions, they have a common denominator. We take one and operate the numerators. We have negative 4 plus 5. X equals to, what is negative 4 plus 5? If you switch the order, it's the same as 5 minus 4. And that will give us 1. With the common denominator, we divide by 3. And that becomes the answer to the second. Okay, this takes us to the end of the lesson. Remember, stay in your homes, wash your hands regularly with soap, or you can also use Omo, others call it locally. If you don't have that, you can also use hand sanitizer to keep your hands clean all the time. Stay safe. I think I'll stop here for now. I'm saying bye-bye to all my students. See you next time.